Hello and welcome to lesson 2 of this series of videos on learning the Devanagari script. In this lesson I shall be going through the shapes of the consonants. We did the vowels in the previous video, and also I will be giving you an introduction to the use of the Lexi Logos online keyboard, which I found enormously valuable, and hopefully it'll help you as well. I refer, as you've seen, to Yogavasarum. That's Zoe Slatov-Ponte's book, the Sanskrit textbook. If you haven't got it yet, it doesn't matter terribly much. As I said in the earlier video, the internet is just awash with all sorts of material on learning Devanagari. You can see it in any textbook of Sanskrit. I do recommend those who are going to follow the forthcoming Sanskrit language course with me. I do recommend that you get that book. But if you don't have it for the series of lessons on the script, it doesn't actually matter very much. Right, so for those of you who do have the book and are following it, I'm going to go through the shapes of the letters. You'll see them all set out in a table at the bottom of page 5. The way the Sanskrit alphabet is traditionally organized, let me just stop this screen share. The way it's traditionally organized, it starts off in the order of letters in the alphabet. It starts off with the vowels, going a, e, u, then long r, then syllabic l, then e, I, o, au. And that's in the same order as is given on page 4 of Yogavasarum. Then you come to the consonants, and the consonants are actually quite logically set out in the order of where they're produced in the vocal organs. It starts off with what they call the gutturals. That's the ones that are sounded furthest back in the throat. There's ka, k, g, g, and the corresponding nasal ng. Then to the palatals a little bit further forward, ch, cha, ja, ja, nya. A little further forward in the mouth still, and you get to the retroflex, and that's the da, ta, da, da, na. Further forward still to the dentals, now where the tongue is touching the teeth, da, ta, da, da, na. Then to the labials, pronounced with the lips, pa, pa, ba, ba, and ma. Then to what we call the semivowels, there's ya, ra, la, va. And finally to the sibilants, that's the sha, sh, sa, and last of all the ha, the H is the last letter of the alphabet. And then we get what's called the add-on sounds, the visarga and the anuswara. Right, I'll go through the shapes with you. I'll go through them in the same order that they appear in the Devanagari alphabet. And as we go through, I'll point out, because it'll help you to remember and also help you to avoid pitfalls, I shall point out letters that are misleadingly similar if you don't know that they're similar or forget they're similar, but helpfully similar if you do know and do remember about it. So I shall now share my iPad screen with you, and we'll start looking at the shapes of the individual letters. Here we go. Now, the ka. I'll just write at the side first what we're doing. Ka. There are two ways of writing the ka, it doesn't particularly matter. Written like that. Some people write it like that. You'll see both in print. It's just It's just an unimportant stylistic variation. That is the ka. Now the aspirated counterpart, dukkha, sorry, the ka as in dukkha, is written like this. It's got two separate elements. Da. Write it again. As before, note I put the characteristic element first, followed by the downward bar, and then by the crossbar. I'll do words of caution as we go along. This letter ka is a single letter. It can, if you're not be careful, it can, if you're not careful, be confused with the letter r followed by that is the letter r on its own. It's the r, and this is the va. If the r and the va are written close together, it can be confused for the k. But in practice, and particularly in a printed text, it's highly unlikely that confusion would ever arise, because in a printed text, the k would be written quite closely like that, whereas a rava would be written a little bit apart. In practice, as I say, confusion shouldn't arise. In handwriting it might, so just be aware of that. Now for the g, g, g. That's it. G, g. Now the g, ghosha, sangha. This is a g, like a 3 backwards. Okay. Now caution, be aware. This is quite similar to the d, which we'll come to in a moment. D, sorry, which is like that. The major difference is that with the g, you have an unbroken crossbar at the top. G, I'm writing now, whereas with the d, it's broken at the top. And finally, the nasal, the ng sound, which we can write that or that, doesn't matter how you pronounce it, how you write it rather. It's written like that. Now again, caution. This is meant to be the two ways of writing. No, two ways of writing. No. Caution, because this ng sound, letter, looks a bit like the retroflex d. They look exactly the same, apart from the fact that the ng has this dot to the right of it, whereas the d doesn't. So this is ng. Right, that deals with what they call the gutturals. We'll now go to the palatals. So we'll do ch, j, j, ny. So the ch, written like that. Ch. And the cha, bit curly, the cha. Sometimes a little line there. You can see it written in different ways. Some people write it like that. Some people write it like that. But the characteristic shape, it's a squiggly shape of a backwards 3 and a curl round. Again, it makes no difference if you continue the curl down there. Some people even write it without the crossbar on top, or just write half a crossbar. But provided you look out for this essential shape, and that's the ch. The J, written like this. Once again, J. J, that's the aspirated J. Now, it helps you to remember that if you remember how to write the letter, the short vowel, oops, the short E. The short E is written like this, if you remember, that's the E. The J is, you start off as if you're writing the E, but then you little join that to the upright, so like in, that's how you do it. It's your J. And the Ny, Ny. Right, now to the retroflex, that's the da, da, dha, ta, na. They all carry the da, dha, da, dha. As a group, they're more more curly than the others. Show you the da. And there is a characteristic of this group that it has no upright bar. The n, the retroflex n does, but the rest don't. This is the da. Da. The aspirated form of that, so da again, the ta, the aspirated form of that, is the same, but you, as it were, complete the circle underneath. There, that's a ta. Watch again. Ta. Now the da, written like that. As you will remember from a moment ago, the letter ng is the same, but with a dot after it there. Without the dot, it's a da, da. Now, da, it's written a little bit like the da and the ta, but with curl in. So here we are. Instead of completing the curl or stopping there, it curls back in. Da, da. And finally in this series, the na, which is written like this. Na, na. You will often see it in printed books written in a slightly different way, like this. Next again. It's the same letter, it makes no difference which one is used, it's all n. Now we come to our dentals. That's the t, t, d, and the ordinary n. So t, which we looked at extensively in the previous lesson, written like that. T. The ta, the little curl there, that's the ta. And you'll see that the ta doesn't have a crossbar the whole way along the top, only a little bit of a crossbar at the top of the upright. Watch again. That's the ta. This similar shape, you have a bit of the similar shape in the y, but the y is just written like that. Careful that y, t. The, dental D. Again, it doesn't have an upright bar, a bit of a curly one. This. Oops. Sorry. This. Oops. It distinguishes itself from the D, and by it starts off as if looking like a D, but it gets a squiggle round, see, a curl round at the bottom. That's what makes it a D. So D, so D, retroflex, and D. The D. Oh. Sorry, it's the iPad developing a life of its own, or my fingers touching the wrong place. So D. D. And remember, I showed you before, the G crossbar goes all the way across the top, and the D, it doesn't. Sometimes people write the D with a little curl at the top, and you'll see it also written in printed books as well like that. So you can write it either like that or like that. It doesn't actually make any difference. Just note that characteristic shape and the bar, whichever way the D is written, the various styles of writing it, the bar is always broken at the top. It never covers the entire top. That would make it a G, as this one. Now the N, about the simplest of all the letters, the characteristic shape of it is that, and then as usual the upright and the crossbar. N. Now to the labials, the ones pronounced with the lips. You'll give you B, P, 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 and M. Characteristic shape, there is the P. The P is very similar. It just written like that. It's like the P, though it has the upright goes through the middle. So it's like the P, but with a little extended tail behind. So P, P. And some people might write it like that. It doesn't really matter. I've always written it like that. If you want to write it like that, fine, not a problem. Now the B. B. Note that we'll come to this in a moment, the letter V is written like that, just like this, almost egg-shaped. The B is the same shape, but with this bar through the middle. So remember that's V, and this is B. The only difference between them is that line in the middle. Now B, I'm going to do M first. M, that's the characteristic shape of M. M. The B is very similar, but the top bar is broken. It's normally written like this. You start with the top bar, then go down. So when you finish it, it looks like a M, but with an open top, as it were. B. Now we go over to the semivowels and sibilants, as they're called. It's the ria, ra, la, va. Then we go to, you'll do the sibilants, the sa, sha, sa, and ha. The ya, written like that. The ra, That's downstroke, and then like that. I've written that a bit too long. Some people write it like that. Some people write it as two strokes like that. But just make sure that you get this either that down and then like that, or like that. That's the general. It's, remember, it's got a bend in the middle. Oops, it's kind of funny here. So there are different ways of writing it. You'll see the different styles. Just remember this characteristic shape, and it's got no separate upright. That's all it is. The la. This is how you write the la. La. In handwriting, it can be written like that. You normally wouldn't see it in print in this way. In handwriting, you would see it. It doesn't particularly matter how you do it. And remember, we did the vowel, the vocalic l, as in the root clip, which is the same as the consonant, except we've got a little curl at the bottom. So this is la, and this is the vocalic, the vowel l. Sorry, write it like this, l. Finally, va. Remember, this looks like the b sound, though the v doesn't have that bar through the middle. Remember, v, b. Now coming to the sibilants, this is sh. Some people write it like that. Some people write it with the bar across the top. Sh. But remember, the characteristic is that curly top, there and back. Look at that. That's the characteristic of the sh. Some people don't make it a curl, they just make it like that. So to avoid confusion, I prefer to see it written in sorry, sh. The sh, you'll recognize this because it looks very like the p, but like just as the v and the b is written with a crossbar through the central element, the sh is like a p, but written with that crossbar. That's a sh. Remember this, pa, sh, and the s, da. And people write it more curly. The important distinction between a s and a sh is the sh is more curly at the top and tends not to have this joining bar, so it's just written like that. So sh, s, sorry. Sa, sha. Now the ha, written like this, two elements to it. I haven't written that very elegantly. The ha, 1, 2. In handwriting, people often write it just like that. Hey, hey. Hiram. As for what in the Yogavasarum book is called the add-on sounds, the anuswara, it's just written as a dot. So, for example, aham on its own, ah, this is aham. But anjana, if it's followed by another word, the final M becomes an anuswara, which is just written as a dot. above the letter. So ahanjanami, I know, ahanjanami would be written like this. Ahan, and write the dot on the top. Ahan janami. Remember this little mi written like that. There's the m, I like that, mi. And the anuswara, that's the final ah sound. We have the word, let's put nara, and then the nominative singular form narah. So nara, nara, and narah, written with these two dots there. Narah. Buddha. What's Buddha? Sorry, getting a bit small there. Right, so that's on the shape of the letters. If you have the Yogavasarum book, now look at pages 8 and 9, where you'll see all these shapes in large type, printed form. Further over page 10, there's a guide on the order in which you can write them. But as I said, if you don't have the book, don't fret too much. You'll find plenty of guidance for all of this on the internet. So we'll pause this section of it, and I'll go over now to an introduction to the Lexi keyboard. Right, here we are now with the Lexi online keyboard. It's free. You don't even download it. Whenever I need to do anything in Devanagari script, just enter their website, up it comes. And here we are, here's the address, just there's Lexi, as you can see written here, just lexilogos.com or lexilogos.com/keyboard. When it comes up, it won't necessarily come with the language that you want, but there's a massive number of different languages you can choose. Just go to the drop-down menu, select a language. We've got Eastern Armenian there, goodness. Just select a language, then go to that drop-down menu, select Sanskrit Devanagari, and up it comes. Now, in this keyboard, you can enter text in Roman script, and it will immediately produce for you the corresponding Devanagari. Now, I'm going to type in Buddha in our standard transliteration, B-U-D-D-H-A, B-U-D-D-H-A, and there we are. It's given me Buddha immediately, though I typed in the Roman script for it. If I want to make Buddham, just type in the M, and it gives me the M with the virama. You see that little stroke underneath with the virama, because Buddham. If I left in Buddhama, ooh, I have a double M there. Buddhama, which doesn't exist, but Buddham, Buddham. It has certain conventions. I mean, in the way we transliterate Sanskrit and Pali, we have our various subdotted letters, subdotted T, D, N, M, and so on. And we have a macron, for example, over the long vowels. There is a code down here, instructions to give you the different letters that you need. It will accept, for the long vowels, it will accept for the A, I, U, see here, it will accept it with a macron or with a capital letter for it. For the vocalic R, you've got to put hyphen R. Vocalic L, rare as it is, just a hyphen L. Put a capital M for the anuswara, that's just the dot over the final letter. For example, if I was writing as I wrote before, aham, aham. So if I just wrote aham, it would write in full aham, but to make that anusvara, aha, capital M. Now, one thing that I've noticed about this, if you make a mistake when you're typing into the Lexi Logos screen, it can sometimes be a bit awkward when you try to correct it, and it jumps about a bit, maybe because I just don't know how to treat it properly, but it can be very awkward correcting a mistake once you've made the mistake in there. It doesn't quite behave like a sensible Word document where you can just make any corrections that you want. So what I much prefer to do, and it's easier, and it sounds as if it takes a bit longer to start with, but I assure you it's very well worth doing, is I create just a Word document first. I write what I want to put in a Word document. So let's say I want to say Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. It's right in Sanskrit, Buddhang Sharanang Gacchami. So I would type it in Roman script, you see on this Word document. Buddham. Now normally we would write it like this. Buddhang Sharanang Gacchami. Sorry, that's my preferred form of transliteration, and that this has become now by far the most common. But there are two things here that the Lexi Logos will not allow me to do, not allow any of us to do. One is the subdotted M. You've got to change that to a capital M, otherwise Lexi Logos won't recognize it. Let me just, I'll give you an example of what I mean. I'll copy this, copy, all right. We have to change it. The subdotted M, we've got to change to a capital M. The little stroke over the S to show that it's a sh, the palatal sh. Lexi Logos won't recognize, so you've got to change that to an SH. Sharanam. The subdotted N it will recognize. Again, this M we've got to change. So let me give you an example of what happens if I paste in the words written in our preferred style, some of which it won't recognize. I'll copy and paste. Oops, just do that. No, oops, paste. Oh, it did recognize. Did I do the right one? Do you know? I think they may have updated their system, because it's now recognizing the subdotted M and the little stroke over the S, which is wonderful. I'm seeing this for the first time. It didn't do it before. Let me just double check I've got this right. Am I copying the right one? That's wonderful. Okay, it is recognizing our form of transliteration. They've obviously tweaked their system since I last attempted to do it this way, which is wonderful. And hopefully it should also recognize the old style. Copy. Let me just. It's recognizing both systems now. Okay, wonderful. Whether it recognizes every single character in our transliterated system, I don't know. You see, for example, if you look down the instructions, if you want the anusvara, it says you type a capital M. So they've updated the system. You can write a subdotted M, it'll give it to you. But they haven't updated their instructions. They're still demanding a capital M. Anyway, this is all good news. It makes it easier than it was before. So here we are. We've got Buddhang Sharanang Gacchami. What I'm going to do, this text now in Devanagari, you can copy and paste. or indeed cut and paste, and just I'll cut it. Control X. There we are. And down here, I've pre-formatted this for it, and paste. Control V. There we are. It's now come out. Now, here we are. It's an ordinary Word document, and I can do with it what I want. I can alter the typeface. By the way, if you cut and paste into a Word document without specifying your typeface, this is what it'll give you. It'll give what's known as the Mangal. The Mangal is very crude looking. It looks electronic. It looks rough. It doesn't look good. Those who want me to explain, I'll explain later as we go along. But it just doesn't look very Indian. It doesn't look the way it's written. It doesn't look as if written with the properly cut reed pen. Whereas if you use my preferred typeface, look at this, the Arial Unicode MS, change to that. This now looks much more authentic. This is much closer to where the thicks and the thins are. See, some bits thick, some bits thin. Go back to the previous one, to the Mangal. You see it's all equal thickness all round. It would normally not be written like that with the traditional reed pen. Back to Arial Unicode, and become even clearer if we expand it to 72. This is the elegant script. This is what I like it to look like. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Now, one huge advantage of the Lexilogos system is that if you aren't quite sure what a conjunct will look like, for example, ratna, how do you write tna together? We'll deal with the conjuncts in the next lesson, actually. So ratna, how do you write ratna? We know how to write a t on its own, we know how to write a n on its own, but when you join them together in a ligature, so let's take it out and paste it into the keyboard, and that's how it is. And in case that's not big enough, just cut that out, put it back into your, and that shows you in big clear type how to write ratna. There's the characteristic shape of the t that we know. The characteristic shape of the n is kind of tucked inside it. Anyway, I'm jumping ahead a bit. The ligatures, that's for the next lesson, are slightly more complex. I'm just going to refer you now to one document I've done. If you look at page 11 now of the Yogavasarum, this starts with exercises, and you'll see that a number of words are written in the Devanagari script, and the exercise is to transliterate those into Roman script. I have prepared a sheet which is on the Google Drive, and hopefully soon will be on the more easily indexed on the website. Hopefully within, well, maybe even this weekend. That might be hoping too much, but soon anyway. And this sheet that I've prepared is just the, I think I called it Yogavasarum Devanagari exercises, which you'll find on my Google Drive. Sets out in Devanagari, in the exercises, and below that the transcription, or the transliteration, I should say, into Roman script. So that it's already on my Google Drive page. I recommend that you use it. So I will wind up there, and I will see you again then for lesson 3.